The African American Legend series highlights the accomplishments of blacks in areas as varied as politics, sports, aviation, business, technology, literature, and religion. We will explore how African Americans have succeeded in areas where they'd been previously excluded because of segregation, racism, and lack of opportunity. I'm your host, Dr. Roscoe C. Brown, Jr., and with us today is Patricia Bransford, the president of the National Urban Technology Center. Hi, Pat. Welcome to African American Legends. Now, let's talk about technology, because we're on technology and everybody talks about technology. And you and your colleagues have founded this National Center for Urban Technology. So tell us about it.
It was founded back in 1995, Roscoe, when we first saw the problem that existed between the technology haves and have-nots. And we, quite frankly, were afraid that if we didn't put a plan in place for providing access to technology to people in low-income communities, that they would really be on the dirt road, so to speak, and never be able to catch up.
Well, you mentioned we. Who are the we?
We, there were a group of us, had retired from IBM and had seen the benefit of technology over the years in corporate America, in telecommunications, in finance. And when we retired, we really felt like the next arena, if you will, was the community in terms of using technology effectively and efficiently.
Well, it's very interesting because I did some work with IBM many, many years ago, and I found that they were sort of on the cutting edge. I was a professor at New York University, and I was president, and we did a number of things with the IBM technologies, but those were the old days of the punch cards and the tapes and so on. Now we have all of the internet and the digital, etc. So it's right there on your desk now. There was a time you had to send it out to the computer center. Now it's right there at the desk, and you can manipulate your data and information and so on. But then the question is, for those of us, particularly those of us who are older, and maybe some who are younger, what does it take to become computer literate? What are the elements of computer literacy?
Well, there are a couple of things. One is you need access to the technology. You need someone who's there to provide training.
Okay, well, let's stop right there, because I know many of us, when we're in our businesses teaching, they put a computer on our
your desk,
and they give you a manual, and you learn how to turn it on. But then, from then on, it's a self-learning technique.
Oh, yes.
Now, many organizations do not have computer specialists or programming specialists to work you through this. So what does that kind of person do, whether in a school or a business or at home, when there's no one to help them?
Well,
or maybe there is.
Yeah, I think you bring up a couple of points. First of all, technology in and of itself is not going to drive you to use the technology. Just because it's sitting on your desk doesn't mean you're going to use it. It's got to be integrated into what you do. It's got to be a tool. For instance, most businesses, when I was at IBM in the early 80s, the sales manual was put on the internet. The internet then was simply a network that connected all of the IBM offices. It also communicated the message of the president. So it made it necessary for you to learn that technology in order to be a productive person in the IBM community. And the same thing exists in other environments. For instance, in the home, it's got to help you buy more easily and more efficiently. It has.
It is true that that occurs. For example, the data indicate that the amount of internet purchasing at the holiday time increased by about 30%, whereas the department store sales were fairly level. But as one who has used internet purchasing, there's a certain amount of anxiety in terms of whether they get the order right,
That's
are they doing my credit card the right way, I'm going to get it on time.
That's right.
Now, it's true, after they do it a couple of times and they satisfy you, your comfort level increases.
And that's the key, is your comfort level has to increase. When that increases, your proficiency increases, and then you're a lot more productive when you use the technology.
Well, that's the National Urban Technology Center. What do you do to improve the comfort level of people in business, education, the home, etc.?
Well, the National Urban Technology for 10 years has been putting technology centers in communities all over the country. I mean, we're in 50 states, we're in 400 communities across the country, in partnership with Department of Justice, the Weed and Seed program, Department of Education. And what we do is we come in and we plan with the community to make sure technology is integrated with the community strategy for revitalization, for example, for youth development, for economic development. We then provide some training and what we call it community of trainers, so that everybody has the expertise and a curriculum so that the residents can be trained. And we provide technical assistance to each of those sites. So those components have to be in place in order for those sites to be successful.
All right, let's see. I'm a citizen living in Middle America's city of about 500,000, and I want to develop a program to improve youth participation in recreation, drama, social events, etc. So walk me through how you would do that.
Well, and that's a wonderful question, because youth development is probably one of the key applications out there for technology, and that's because youth are very adept at using technology. You'll find that the early adopters of technology have all been very young. And so if you can use technology to help give them access to the internet, so that they can explore, do research. If you can teach them life skills, leadership skills.
Well, how would you do that? Take me one step. How would you do that through your center?
Well, what we have done, starting in 1997, is we've actually developed a smart interface called the Youth Leadership Academy. And through that interface, we deliver across the country a curriculum that uses technologies, animation, music, access to the internet, to teach topics that are relevant to young people today. Topics like conflict resolution and personal appearance and personal relationships.
What about disease, AIDS, and things like that?
We have a series on healthy living where we talk to them about substance abuse prevention and HIV and AIDS awareness.
Okay, now tell me, how do you talk to them on the computer about drug awareness and AIDS awareness? What do you actually do?
Well, we start with an animated movie that is 3 to 4 minutes. It uses characters that are like the youth in these cities, so they see themselves in the curriculum. And through that movie, we actually communicate the message about good, healthy habits and about the dangers of substance abuse. But we don't stop there. After we actually communicate that message, we give them a chance through that use of that interface to discuss that with their peers. So we call that a group discussion.
Is that on the computer, or is it an animate discussion?
It is on the computer, but it is directed by a facilitator who actually involves the young people in the class in a spirited discussion about the issues that have been raised in the animated movie.
Well, would you use a webcam, for example? I know that's a more advanced technique, but many groups now are using webcams to do video conferencing.
Well, in fact, through that interface, which we call on the reel, we can use our animated movie, or we can do a live webcast, or we can do stills. We can actually use any media in that. It's a stage, if you will, that we use to communicate the message about those topics that are critical to youth.
So I'm in a community and I see this program, and I get motivated. I want to do something. How does urban technology get into a community? How does one get in touch with them? What are the steps?
Well, in many of those community centers where we've already put technology centers, we can actually disseminate or distribute this software through the internet. And so those residents who come into the center can access the Youth Leadership Academy in the center.
You mean to say that there's a physical place where people can go to access this material?
There is. I mean, they can go to a community-based organization, but we're also in schools. For example, in New Jersey, we are integrated into the 9 to 3 curriculum. So those students come in and use the Youth Leadership Academy to prepare them for American history, for example.
Well, how does the Youth Leadership Academy prepare them for American history?
Well, we give them a chance to express themselves. Young people are saying that they need a few things in order to make school more interesting to them. First of all, they need to see themselves in the curriculum. So we do that through the animated movie. They need to deal with topics that are critical to their lives, that are relevant today. The other thing is they want to express themselves. They want to show their originality about topics. They want to do some problem solving and some critical thinking with their peers. And they also want a chance to play games. They want feedback. So they want to use this technology in a way that's creative and innovative for them.
Who designs your instructional modules, the animations and so on? Who does that?
We have a development team that does research on an ongoing basis. And then we have used research over the years to decide on what topics that are important to youth, and then what those chapters are, if you will, or those important subtopics that need to be included in, first of all, personal appearance. And then we actually have people animators, and we have curriculum development people. We also have a back-end system called Apollo that tracks the progress of young people through this curriculum.
Do you always use animation, or do you use video as well? Live video?
For our Youth Leadership Academy today, we use the animated movie as the curriculum, but we also teach youth in that program how to do their own videos as a way of expression. So we have 7 different paths, if you will, because young people learn in many different ways. So it can start with the animated short or movie, and then the next path is break it down, which is the group discussion. We have another one called Right to the Point, which allows them to do written composition or e-journaling, which is saved in the back-end system. We then have a path called We Got Game, and during We Got Game, we have role-playing, we have debates.
Now, the role-playing, is that on the computer?
That's on the computer, actually. We write script, both lose-lose and win-win situations, and then we allow the facilitator to use the students in the class to play them out.
Now, the facilitator is an animate person with animate students?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
For example, if you are teaching American history and you're dealing, let's say, with the Reconstruction period, where the victories of the Union were attenuated by the fact that they removed the federal troops, how would you do that? What would you do? Would you go to a teacher guide where you have certain objectives and then develop questions around those objectives?
You got it. I mean, we have a curriculum guide that we have designed to support the interactive interface, and that curriculum guide is really for the facilitator. And it really provides many different kinds of activities that the facilitator can be involved in or get the class involved in to supplement some of the curriculum material. For example, just to answer your question, the facilitator may go and clip out some news articles that from the New York Times or from the news or from other periodicals, maybe magazines, maybe Oprah, that illustrate or supplement what we are teaching in conflict resolution. But students learn how to express themselves, and that's the important part. If you give them an environment that is a safe environment where they can express themselves about a topic, they begin to build their own value systems, and also they begin to relate better to the Reconstruction period. They can see themselves in that period.
One of the things happens, though, with some of the instant messaging and the blogs, there's some very unsavory things that are said and done under the guise of the anonymity of the computer, or even the identification of the person who sent those messages. What do you do to eliminate or to moderate that type of concern? Because that is a concern which has led some schools even to censor which we don't believe in, but to censor some of the things the students are writing. Well, so what do you do when students get off, not get off the track, but when they're expressing the real world, which is a world of violence and drugs and sex and racism? What do you do when that comes through?
Well, that's a very good question. And we thought long and hard about that when we were developing the curriculum. And that is one reason why we script it so carefully. Mm-hmm. But we also, because it is an internet-based, web-based curriculum, we actually can not only refresh it, but also monitor it. Mm-hmm. And in one of our paths, so to speak, we have something called Hotlink Library, and we give the facilitator links that are positive content that illustrate or supplement the material that we're teaching. And so, yeah, we actually, even though this is an open palette for the facilitator, we are very careful about scripting what is on the interface.
Now tell me about the facilitator. Is the facilitator sitting in front of a computer, sitting in front of a class? How does the facilitator operate?
Yeah, it's a mixture. We think technology, again, is just a tool. Mm-hmm. And teachers and guidance counselors are very excited about and very inspired about using this innovative tool, which, as I said, gives them a palette. So we provide maybe the animated movie and the questions in Break It Down, but they can bring in the newspaper articles to supplement what they're doing. Those facilitators are trained by us in the use of the computer, the use of technology, but it's very easy. It's a very intuitive product, so it's very easy to use. Really, the training comes in teaching about the leadership skills, the life skills, because teachers are taught to teach algebra and history, and they are not taught usually to teach self-discovery or conflict resolution or personal appearance. In fact, teachers have said they're a little concerned about dealing with certain sensitive issues, and so we make them comfortable with those social and emotional issues. It's very important that they do that, because otherwise they cannot reach the kids and teach them.
Okay, we're in the New York metropolitan area. If someone views this program and says, look, I'm really excited about that, how do they get involved? How do they get facilitators? What do you do?
Well, they can call us, and we'd be happy to, come out and plan with the administrators on how YLA, Youth Leadership Academy, can be integrated with their curriculum in the most effective way. And then we actually work with teachers to prepare them for using and implementing the program. And then we provide ongoing technical assistance. We go on site as they're teaching to actually co-teach with them for a period of time. Then they become believers and actually are able to really enrich that curriculum with their own style. And that's when it becomes very interesting. But we also have an 800 number that they can call us if they get in trouble.
Let's hear that or see that 800 number. What is it?
It's 1-800, and well, let me give you the 212 number.
Okay.
528-7350 for people in New York City. They probably would rather have that.
That's good.
The 800 number for people outside of the city is 1-800-998-3212.
And when they call this number, they'll get an animate person.
Oh, they do. In fact, it's not. We don't put them on hold. It is somebody who has already worked with them. It is the person who taught them, who is constantly in touch to make sure that they are able to implement this comfortably, which is the important piece.
Now, how many sites do you have in New York City at the present time?
We have probably about 50 sites. We did a project in Region 8 in Brooklyn with guidance counselors, very successful. 12 schools, 24 guidance counselors. And the Youth Leadership Academy is actually used by them with young people who are pulled out of the class because of a behavior problem. And they begin to build some of the values that they need in order for them to be successful academically.
Now, the funding for this comes from you or from the schools or the community?
Well, in that case, it came from the schools, but it's a very small per person, comes out to be about $10 a student a year. It's a very small amount. In what we're offering now for a period of time is if a school wants to be involved, it's $1,500 for unlimited number of students. And so that...
But the school has to provide the computers, of course.
Yeah. In the case of Region 8, we also provided the computers because the guidance counselors did not have computers and it was not in the budget. And we did not want that to be an inhibitor. So we can get very good computers that are refurbished. We put the software on it and they're as good as new. So we try to eliminate any kind of obstacle there is to getting the technology, including providing it ourselves.
Well, going back to your mission to bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots, I guess haves and have-nots has to do with economics, but haves and have-nots also has to do with willingness and ability to use the computer.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the impediments that keep people from using computers either in education, business, or the home?
Very good question. And this is the most important question about addressing the gap, because it changes behavior for a person. And if they're too busy to learn or to accept a new tool, or if they're afraid of technology, they're afraid of making a mistake, they won't touch the technology. If it doesn't relate to their lives.
Well, how do you help it to relate?
Well, and it goes back to coming up with applications that help them be more productive, that get them what they want in life, that help them get educated or
get a product, right?
Get a product.
Or a
so
service,
it's got to fit into their everyday lives, to what they need.
But how do you do that? That really is that gap in there. They know they might need it, but they're afraid of getting into it. So what do you do to bridge that?
I think, first of all, it comes with, we have found over time, it comes with providing access in a place, in a neighborhood, close to their home, where they can drop in and, just experiment with it and get comfortable, but with a coach, someone nearby that can help them, figure out what keys to hit. and make them comfortable that they can't make a mistake, really, with technology.
They can, but it can be easily corrected.
It can be easily corrected, and then you teach them how to do that, and then once they become comfortable, then they'll move into a class, and they'll learn certain things that help them today to do maybe a bulletin, or to help do their homework or research paper, and to see how easy it is to adopt technology, because it just reduces so many steps that they would normally have to take.
Well, we've been talking mostly about the young end,
right?
The children in schools and communities. What about the old end, the senior citizens, the nursing homes, and so on? Do you do anything there?
Oh, yes. Well, we find that our senior programs are one of the most successful, actually, because it provides certain things for them to do, like, sending photographs, accepting photographs from all over the country of grandchildren, making phone calls. I mean, we worked with people that come from different countries who can make a phone call or communicate with a relative free of charge.
Is the cost a great cost or a minimal cost?
Very minimal. I mean, to make a phone call to, I don't know, South America might be, $25 for a couple of minutes, but it costs nothing if you've got access to email and the internet.
Okay, well, this has been a great discussion. I've learned a lot about technology, and I know our audience has learned a lot. We've been talking with Patricia Bransford, who's the president of the National Center for Urban Technology, and we hope that you use technology as well. Thanks, Pat, for being with us.
Well, thank you, Roscoe, for inviting me.